Hey everyone, I'm Tori.
I'm Courtney, and we're your bitch pack friends.
We're continuing I think our Jacob Elordi feature by talking about two movies that came out in the last couple years, Elvis and Priscilla. Courtney recently watched them, so she's got fresh takes for us.
Yes, I do.
So you watched these movies this weekend. What prompted that?
Boredom. So I was just like looking for something on Netflix, and I saw Priscilla, and I was like, oh, I knew you had seen it, and or you had talked about the Elvis movie once or twice. So I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, let's do this. And I almost wish I would have watched that. Like I watched Priscilla, and then I watched Elvis. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I did that in the right, because then I couldn't fully enjoy Elvis for
Yeah.
obvious reasons.
Yeah, I could see that because it's
Hmm.
like the Elvis, they're both very I think it's kind of cool how it's like Elvis is kind of from Elvis's perspective and Priscilla's kind of from Priscilla's perspective, but they're about the same timeline pretty much, right?
They are. Yeah. And I wouldn't even say it was Elvis's perspective. It was more just like glorifying his music career.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Well, sorry.
Sorry. I feel like if there was a movie from Elvis's perspective, it would be a very sad movie.
Yeah. Um okay. And I also cuz that movie Elvis is really like largely about his relationship with his manager. So I feel like it was a little bit
Hmm.
unfair of them just to call it Elvis. Like it could have been called like Elvis and Colonel Tom or whatever, but
Yeah.
they didn't ask me.
They should have.
All right, so you watched Priscilla first.
Hmm.
What were you expecting, and then like what was it like watching it?
Um, I was expecting the story of Elvis. I was expecting it to be worse than it actually was. I was expecting him because like you hear this
Yeah,
grown man is going for a 14-year-old, you expect a full-blown pedophile,
yeah,
but they're like he's not having sex with her.
yeah.
They're like
Which is almost more. It's almost more weird that way.
yes, you almost leave the movie wondering like what was wrong with him.
Yeah,
Like mentally there's something off, but what was it? Like I think his childhood was traumatic. And there are people who so he was obsessed with 14-year-old girls. So people are like he had a trauma at 14
okay,
and he has this weird relationship with his mother. So like was she grooming him?
yeah,
She dies when he's what 24, 23 or 20 in his early 20s. So it's like
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I think I read somewhere that he like had this. He had this idea of like trying to create the perfect family and like have the perfect wife, and so he was like trying to mold Priscilla into that. And
Mhm.
also he was like getting so much action elsewhere that he didn't really need her. So like
Right.
so he was like trying to make like craft her into this like perfect wife that she could be for him.
And
And
he was very controlling of her.
yeah. Um yeah, it was weird. But also like I don't know, if you were how would you feel if you were Priscilla, like if you were 14 and Elvis started trying to date you?
I would date the shit out of him. And if my parents tried to tell me no, I'd run away,
Yeah.
which was, I think, her plan. So that's,
Yeah.
I feel like she has defended everybody in this story. She's defended Elvis and she's defended her parents that like she was going to do what she wanted to do. I mean, I remember being 14.
Yeah.
If some celebrity everybody was in love with and I had
Yeah.
a crush on wanted to be with me, I would obviously want that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they did a good job of, like, setting the scene. It's still I don't know, I feel like my parents would be like, "There's no way you would have done that," and it's like, "Come on."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like, they make her show that she's, like, really isolated over in Germany. Her parents are having a hard time with it. They don't know what to do with her. They feel really
Mhm.
bad. And then, like, Elvis is, like, an army guy, and he comes and talks to the dad, and he does the whole thing, and, like, he
He's
has a
very charming and respectable.
yeah, and he like provides a chaperone, and so it's like, what are the parents supposed, you know? I
Mhm.
guess they could have not sent her away to Memphis. That's what they could have. That's probably like where I'm like, okay, that's it gets a
Yes.
little weird there.
Well, and that's the part where she defends her own parents
Mm,
is they were very torn on it. They didn't want her to go. but they thought she would go whether they told her she could or
Yeah.
not. So they were like, at least we have some control if we
Yeah.
know when she's there, how she's getting there and back.
Yeah. That's a good line of logic. I feel like when your kid gets to be like 16, 17, you kind of like, you have to be like, well, they're about to turn 18 and they're going to do whatever they want anyway. So I might as well
Yeah.
not make them hate me between now and then.
Right. Well, and by the time she was going to Memphis, she was no longer 14. She was still underage, but she was what, 16, 17 at that point?
Yeah. And then,
And
yeah.
and according to her, she was mature
Yeah.
for her age, which is still I don't think that necessarily makes it right, but
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just
I
like
don't know.
it's literally like a fluke freak show situation. Like, what do you do?
It is.
Like, no, none of us is ever going to have to make those decisions.
Exactly.
It's such a weird thing.
It is.
I like the nuns in the movie when
Oh yeah.
when the nuns are like fawning over Elvis at his graduation.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really
They're
cute.
what did she say? She was like, God blesses you and your hips or
Yeah.
something. Which should have been like the opposite of what a nun says back then. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. I also, well, I was thinking like a 14 or even a 17-year-old today is like, I feel so much more immature than a 17-year-old in the 50s. Like 17-year-olds in the 50s were like being prepped to like become mothers in the next year and like
Yeah,
run
I mean,
households. Now
think of
17-year-olds can't even drive a car. Like
literally, they don't want to either. And it's like back then, people were having babies when they were still teenage, like when they're 18, 19, and that was normal.
yeah.
Early 20s. Now that's like unheard of. If you're having babies in your early 20s, it's not on purpose.
Yeah. Did you think, so the woman that plays Priscilla, I don't even want to call her a woman because she seems like such a baby. She's probably in her
She
20s.
looks like a baby. She
Her
looks
name
like a baby.
her name's Kaylee Spaney, I think is how you say it. How did you think she
Mm-hmm.
did?
I loved her.
Yeah.
And I thought she did good, like, as Priscilla got a little older, like, you could see her getting older.
Yeah, for sure. She like spans like being a teenager and then being a young woman and
Yes.
being a
She
mother.
plays innocent very well. And then she's also, at the end, she's like, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah. And then you can definitely see like her confidence growing throughout
Mm-hmm.
the movie, and like she grows as a character, which is pretty cool. She did a
Which
good
is
job.
wild that she actually did, especially being as young as she was. Like, by the time she left Elvis, like, she would have had to be strong and mature and have a mind of her own. And, like, how did that even happen with
Yeah.
him controlling her, this superstar?
Yeah, I don't know.
Props to her. Props to her.
She was just sitting at home thinking about it.
Yeah, true. She's all by herself.
About being strong for 12 years or however long
I
it was.
got this.
I also feel for her because it's like, and I've read this other places, and I feel like they show it in the movie too, that like all she wants is to be with Elvis. Like she just wants to marry
Yes.
him. She wants to sleep with him. He won't sleep
Mm-hmm.
with her, and he won't marry her. And finally he does, and she immediately, like literally immediately gets pregnant. And like
Immediately.
and then after she has the baby, he like doesn't want anything to do with her anymore because he thinks
Yeah.
it's
Well,
gross.
he had told her before they had ever gotten married and had sex, he was like, I've never been able to make love to a mother. Anybody who's had a child, it's just. And so she immediately gets pregnant. She's probably like, great, we're done here. But I did read something that said she loved like that week or two after they had gotten married because they went off and had a honeymoon, and she
Mhm.
got to like play the real wife. She got to take care of him instead of everybody else taking care of him. She got
Yeah.
to play house basically.
Yeah. It's a lot of time and effort for 2 weeks of 2 good weeks.
Yeah. What a marriage.
Yes, I felt for her then because it's like, ugh, she just had like a little glimpse of victory and then it was all downhill.
Right.
But,
Well, and it's awful because like once she does move to Memphis, he's like going off to Hollywood to shoot his films and makes her stay there basically. I don't know if his plan was to go hook up with other people, if that's why he wanted her there. I don't know. I
yeah.
mean, who knows? But and Priscilla knows he's got, girlfriends and whatever in Hollywood, and she confronts him about it. She's pissed. And
Yeah.
he's like, these things are going to happen. He's like, I just need somebody to be here for me. He's like, is it going to be you or not?
Yeah.
She's like, fine. I guess it's
So
me.
that's so hurtful.
It's awful.
I thought that scene was cool because it's like she's, you know, just she's this little young girl, and she's trying to throw her weight around and like do, you know, compete with literal movie stars, like for him to pay attention to her and respect her and desire her the way he does those other people. And like that I thought that was like a cool scene of her like trying to assert herself and be like, hey, I'm not less valuable than Anne Margaret, dummy. Like,
Yeah. Well, and it had to be like a mind fuck too, because he obviously wanted her there. And she's like, he won't even have sex with me. Like, she probably thought, why am I here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which makes everybody question, why did he want her there?
Yeah, there was something not right in his head. I don't.
Yeah.
Um.
So he's taking advantage of her, and there are people taking advantage of him.
Yeah.
It's like dominoes.
It's a big mess. It's just like Britney.
Do you think he loved her though?
No, I don't.
You
Actually.
don't? I don't think he loved her as like a wife. I think he loved her as like almost like a sister.
Yeah.
Like a best friend.
I think he cared about her.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think he really was willing to sacrifice anything for her.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, so even after her, he was he was engaged to, at least one other person. Was he engaged more than once after
I
her?
don't know.
But like, I don't see. I just what I've read and watched. I don't see him being capable of being in love with anybody.
Yeah. And I feel like he only showed her like a part of himself. And I don't know if that was like, I think you can say that he was doing it because he just wanted her to see him like as the I don't know, the good version of himself or the real version of himself, but I think he really did that just to have more control over her and like to
Yeah.
have like his fantasy life where he's this Elvis at home and then he gets to go on the road and do his thing. So,
Well, and I just read this morning that the only reason he proposed is that his manager, the colonel, reminded him that RCA had a morals clause.
oh,
And so like even Priscilla was fine like not getting married. She was like she has said since then that they were both fine just like living together.
yeah.
But that was like frowned upon back then. You didn't just live together, you got married.
Yeah. Ugh, that's so messed up.
It is.
It's such a bummer for her.
Sign of the times.
Did you like what did you think about Jacob Elordi's depiction of Elvis?
I think he did good. And he's a beautiful man, so it's hard to be like, you suck, but
Yeah.
he sucked.
You thought he sucked?
Not Jacob.
Oh.
Elvis sucked.
Oh yeah. Okay. So he played the part well.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And I also like, so Priscilla's story, you see more of him like popping pills and just being unwell in general, being abusive. And you don't really see any of that in Elvis until the very end when she's like, you're strung out and cheating on me, so I'm leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I remember reading that Jacob Elordi was cast as Elvis, and I was kind of like, really? Like, just because that guy has brown hair, you're gonna think he can play Elvis?
Right.
But I was actually really impressed with like how, you know, he like pulled it off, and he kind of does like I feel like he like doesn't exactly look like Elvis, but he kind of like captures his essence really
It's like
well.
the vibe.
Yeah. Which I think is almost better than having a
Mm-hmm.
look-alike. And
Yeah.
I love the way he talks too.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah. He's 6'5".
Yeah. Well, I think that like is like good against Kaylee Spaney because it makes her look so little, you know.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I wonder how tall she is. Did you look that one up?
I didn't look it up, but I
Not
she's got to
that
be
you would
like
have a
5 foot nothing is my guess.
Yeah, he did make her look very tiny.
Yeah. And was reading because this movie's directed by Sofia Coppola, who's like one of my favorites, and I was reading an interview with her, or he was talking about working with her, and he's like, "Yeah, she gives you like a lot of control, like almost too much like too much control. Like she doesn't give a lot of feedback." And he's like, "But I did do one scene where she was like, 'Hey Jacob, that sounded a little like too Elvisy. Maybe you should dial it back.'" like he was like doing an impression. He sounded like he was doing an impression of Elvis, and she's
Oh
like,
yeah.
"That's not what we're trying to do." Like,
Yeah.
like,
Interesting.
yeah.
You
But
would, I mean, I don't know anything about making movies, but you would think you would want somebody who looks and sounds just like Elvis.
yeah. I also love this movie because it's like very stylish. I actually think both movies are very stylish. Like
Yeah.
they have like an aesthetic down, and I think that's largely due to the directors. Like Priscilla is the story, honestly, I didn't love, especially the ending, but like the way it looks is just freaking gorgeous. And so like
It is.
I
Yeah.
could watch it all day.
Well, and Priscilla feels more like going back in time, where Elvis they like modernized it a little bit,
Yeah.
and it was like very flashy, so very different styles.
Yeah. Um but did you ever see The Great Gatsby with Leonardo
That's
DiCaprio?
exactly what it reminds me of. Yeah.
It's the same director.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
So it's like super flashy and fun and in your face and like rhinestones and lights
Yeah. It
and
also
yeah.
reminded me of Moulin Rouge. Did you've seen that one, right? With
Kind of.
Nicole
I don't
Kidman.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
loved that movie
Yeah.
when I was like middle school, high school, whatever age we were.
I've seen bits of it. I don't think I've ever sat down and seen the whole thing.
It's
Gotta add
probably
it.
not that good as an
Yeah,
adult.
add it to the list. Um,
But yeah, Elvis was very good. Austin Butler, hot.
see, I was gonna say, do you like Austin Butler as Elvis?
I loved him as Elvis, and I haven't really seen him in other things, at least not that like I was aware of. And so I like looked him up after watching the movie. I was like, I like him, and apparently I only like him with black hair as Elvis. He's
he's
still a beautiful man, but
he's okay. I'll grant you that he's good looking. He just seems to me like the type of guy that's like extremely overconfident, and I'm like, about what? Like,
so do you remember when Elvis first came out and they were like doing interviews with him and like his voice had changed? Like
yeah,
the way he talked just as himself sounded more like Elvis than before.
yeah.
I'm like, was he doing that? Like, what is he just being goofy? I don't understand what's going on there.
I think he would probably say that he was doing method acting and that he just got into it and like sort of
And
became
couldn't get out.
he couldn't get out. He just like became Elvis. But he got made fun of a lot. I remember that. People being like, "Yo,
Yeah.
like shoot, the camera is not rolling anymore." Like
So embarrassing.
but I did think he did a good I thought he did a really good job as Elvis.
Hmm.
He was I read that he was cast, I was like, I don't know how this is going to work, but he pulled it off and I think he did a great job.
Yeah. The dancing cracks me up because it's like not that good. I mean, like today, it's not that good. And he's barely like I guess that was considered like provocative back
Yeah.
then. And you can hear the girls, even if you watch like real Elvis performances, you can hear girls just losing their minds, especially like not even when he's singing, but when he starts doing his little jiggly dance things, they just scream at the top of their lungs. And I'm like, what? He
Yeah.
dances like my 6-year-old. You've seen you've seen Kellen dance, am I right?
Yeah. That's true. Well, Kellen is a good dancer for a 6-year-old, but
He dances like Elvis.
yeah. Well, the movie actually, when I see like old videos of the real Elvis, I'm like, what? Like that doesn't make any like.
I am not attracted to real Elvis, for the record.
I think I am. I just don't. I don't. I
The
definitely don't think his
younger one.
dancing is sexy. Oh yeah, young
It's
Elvis.
not. So
Yeah,
young Elvis was hot. When he got into like the weird fashion with the big sideburns and like the
yeah,
goofy glasses, no thank you.
yeah.
Not
When
for
he's
me.
like in Vegas, and it's like, when did he die? In the 70s? When he's like in his 70s attire.
Um yeah. Yeah. And
And
he's like chunky at that point.
yeah, he does like in my imagination. I pictured him like growing old and gaining weight, and I was like, why is everyone so mean to him? Everybody gains weight when you get old. Like, get over it.
He
But he
was like
like
30 something.
yeah. He gained like 50 pounds in a year and he's like barely 40.
Well,
Like,
and so they blamed like the drug use obviously, which sucks because he was confident that he was fine because he was getting all of his meds from doctors.
Yeah.
So it's like another Michael Jackson case.
Yeah.
Um, and like maybe that was just his way of being in denial, but he was also like shoveling platters of burgers in his face.
Or like,
So I think he was a very sad person.
do you know what the Elvis sandwich is?
Um, wasn't it like fried pickle and banana or something sandwich?
Uh,
Peanut butter and banana, and it was fried.
it's close. It's peanut butter and bacon and banana. And
Okay.
I guess I don't know, I don't even know if it's true, but he used to eat, supposedly he used to eat that all the time, like right before he died. And now you can like go to a diner and get that sandwich. But
Oh no.
I'm sure it's like,
Bananas are good for you.
yeah, you got to keep your fruit intake up. Um,
Potassium.
yeah, so I don't know. I think that's a good point about like what you said earlier about how in the Elvis movie the drugs aren't a problem until the very end when Priscilla's like, "Look at this," because
Or
they're
like
just
other women even.
yeah,
They made him
um,
look like a good husband up until the very end.
yeah, and then he's all like sad that she's taking his daughter away from him, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
you don't care, you do not
Sit your
care.
ass down.
Like, yeah, they make him a lot more sympathetic in the Elvis movie, and a lot
Yeah.
more like he's in control of his manager, and it kind of makes him kind of never grow up because he like always has this authority figure that's like cleaning up his messes and taking care of things and keeping him
Mm-hmm.
accountable. So he never really has to like be a good at business or be a good husband. He just has to
Right.
get up and perform every night.
Well, and then come to find out, wasn't his manager, Colonel, whatever, wasn't he like taking 50% of his money?
Yeah, like an absurd amount of money. Like
Yes.
that,
Elvis was literally broke.
yeah. Which it's crazy how that happens.
Yeah. That's how Graceland became Graceland. Like as a tourist attraction is Priscilla ended up with it after Elvis's dad had passed and they were gonna have to sell it because Elvis was broke.
Yeah.
And so that's why she made it like a museum basically.
Oh, interesting. I would like to go to Graceland. I think
Me
it'd be
too.
fun. It looks cool. I loved in the Priscilla movie all the pink Cadillacs driving around too.
Hell yeah.
That was awesome.
That was cool.
My
They
sis-
okay, I gotta say about
yeah.
Priscilla, his entourage was so annoying. His friends just there at all times, and they're acting like little boys.
That has to be the weirdest dynamic when you get rich and famous because if you can't like I feel like there's an element where it's like probably hard to trust your new friends, like
Mhm.
people who you become friends with after you get rich and famous. But then if you try to keep your old friends, that weirdness happens where you're just dragging along a bunch of deadbeats who are like letting you pick up the check all the time, and then like their
Yeah,
only job is to be there for you to have fun with. And it's
right. And they
like it's
acted as
weird.
like they acted as his like security guards too.
Yeah. Um I don't know. It must be really hard to like have good friendships when you reach a certain level of fame.
Right, like you can't trust anybody's
Yeah.
like why are you here?
Yeah. But no, you're right. It is his drug use was kind of like Michael Jackson of just people giving him whatever he wanted, making
Mhm.
sure he could perform every night.
Drugs to make him sleep, drugs to keep him awake.
Yeah. And he thought he was doing great. Like I watched that scene in Elvis of him and Priscilla fighting, and he's like, "I'm in the best shape of my life," and he like gets up and like his pot belly's out. He's like, "I'm
You don't want this?
yeah." I actually forgot. Someone asked me like how Priscilla is portrayed in the Elvis movie, and I was like, honestly, I can't even remember her being in that movie. Like it's so
She's there. She's
yeah,
almost just like trophy wife.
yeah. She also looks a lot more grown up in the Elvis movie. Like,
Definitely.
yeah, she's at
She
least
does.
10 years older than in Priscilla.
She never looks like a child in Elvis.
Yeah,
So in the Priscilla movie, they softened it a bit, but when she goes to leave Elvis, he just like forcefully kisses her
oh
and then
yeah,
they stop. But in her book, which I haven't had a chance to read, but I do want to read it. It's from
yeah,
like the 80s that she wrote this. That's what the movie's based off of is her book. he does rape her.
Yeah.
And apparently it's because he assumes she's having an affair, which she is. And he's like, this is how a real man makes love to a woman and rapes her. But then I read something that said she took that back at some point.
Yeah, that I didn't know that she had taken it back. I had heard the story of him like raping her when she's trying to leave him, even though he like hadn't had sex with her in years. Like,
Yeah.
and he's like, "You're gonna try to leave? Fine." Like,
It
like, uh, it
was
just
like a weapon.
sounds like such a freaking messed up
What
situation.
a shit show. And it's crazy, like all of her interviews that she's done, she's so protective of him.
Yeah,
Like she doesn't like it's hard to find really videos of anybody that he actually knew like slandering him.
yeah. He
So, and
probably was
even
just
if
really charming and made you feel really good.
yeah, he was a psychopath. Um Even if she's talking about like the bad things he did, she's like very casual about it.
Yeah,
And she'll like giggle, like she'll say something like right after saying something awful. She'll be like, "Oh, he was so like goofy or whatever," just
yeah.
like try to lighten it a little bit.
Yeah. I do think I think that she really loved him. Do you think that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, she was a fan of his before being his girlfriend and
Yeah,
wife.
that's true. But I don't know. I do think she's trying to be truthful, Priscilla.
Mhm.
And so much time has passed that I mean, she's like 70 now. So,
But she's still making money off him
yeah. Oh yeah.
because she's like co-founder of like Elvis Presley Enterprises or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So like maybe she's only protecting him to make more money. I don't know.
Um one thing that kind of gives me pause and makes me feel bad about liking Priscilla so much is that so Lisa Marie was in charge of Elvis's estate or uh, some element of his estate, and so she had all the rights to his music, and she was not on board with the story. She like does not like how Elvis is portrayed in this movie, and she thinks he's looks like a pedophile and a predator, which he does. And
Because he was.
she's like, we're not cooperating. Like, this is not the story I want people to hear about my dad. Like, I'm not on board. And so she did not agree. So, like, there's no actual Elvis music in Priscilla because she didn't agree to it.
I never
Um,
even noticed that there was no Elvis
um,
music.
but there's a bunch of Elvis music in Elvis. And so
Mhm.
she got on board with that. I'm sure they made a ton of money. But I feel bad because I feel like all the controversy surrounding it probably played into her having a heart attack and dying. I'm not sure how much, but like
It's possible.
I'm sure like she's responsible. She feels responsible for his legacy, and then this thing happened. And I think she was on good terms with her mom, so they probably got in a big fight about it.
So, did you see I don't know, maybe Priscilla is like a troublemaker in the family cuz she just tried to take her own granddaughter to court to get Graceland.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
and she lost. So the Elvis's granddaughter has
okay.
Graceland, but Priscilla tried to take her own granddaughter to court to get it.
Oh, maybe Priscilla is a troublemaker. I I feel like she should, even if she felt legally entitled, I feel like she should let her granddaughter have it.
Yeah.
That's just me.
So
I've
how
never
it
had
worked
millions of
was like,
dollars, so I don't know how I would act.
well, and she's old. Like, what do you need it for?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like so Priscilla had it until Lisa Marie turned a certain age, and then Lisa Marie got it. So that's how Priscilla ended up not having Graceland.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I feel like she should let it go.
Yeah,
And now is it
just let it be.
Riley Keough is her granddaughter, right?
Yes.
I feel like she needs to back off and let Riley maintain Elvis's
Yeah.
legacy. Like it's not
Why
Priscilla's
wouldn't you?
job. Like you got divorced. I'm sorry.
It's your granddaughter.
Yeah, it's your
And
own.
right, like you left him. It's no longer your house.
Yeah.
But it did end up back in her hands after, like I said, Elvis's dad died. But still, it's still your. I mean, she lived there she was with him for 6 years. That's not that long
Yeah. In the grand scheme of things.
when you look at an entire lifetime.
I will say, I think Elvis is biased like makes Elvis look good. generally speaking. Priscilla also definitely Priscilla does have an affair. I'm not saying Elvis had lots of affairs, but I'm just
At
saying
that point, I'm like, good for her.
just saying she wasn't an angel. Like, it's not like she was blameless in the situation. So, and they didn't show that, and they kind of show that the guy is there, and she like puts her hand on his hand or something, but
You
there's
can tell
no,
she's fond of him.
yeah, there's no like explicit like she's having an affair, even though everybody watching would be on her side. Like, yeah, you go,
Yeah,
go do your thing. Like,
you might as well.
you've you've earned it. But I
Right.
thought that was a little bit like, I wish they had just been more open about that. She did it. She did that
Mhm.
instead of like trying to be like she's just an innocent little sheep that has never done anything wrong ever.
Do you know what's wild that I read this morning or yesterday? It doesn't matter. So Priscilla, after Elvis, this is like a few years after Elvis is even dead, when Lisa Marie is 10, Priscilla starts dating this guy and she's with him for like 6 years. And the reason they split up is because this guy ended up having feelings for Lisa Marie, her teenage daughter.
Gross.
So
No.
it's like Elvis goes for her when she's 14 as a teenager, and then it's happening to her daughter, and she's like, this is not okay. Like, you did it.
I'm grossed out
And
by that.
but then she'll still defend Elvis and be like, I was mature.
Yeah. That's a mess. I don't know what to
I
say.
know. There are so many like different, like, you can read about this story for days and days and still not have
Yeah.
all the details.
Well, maybe Priscilla protected Lisa Marie a little better than her parents did. She
Yeah.
had more resources at her disposal, I guess. But ew, can you imagine dating somebody and then having them be like, actually, I'm kind of into your teenage daughter?
Blech.
Gross. Gross.
It's nasty.
What I was
Also,
going to say earlier, and I
yeah.
backtracked, was because it was too cynical and negative, but I was like, Elvis might like teenage girls, but doesn't every guy
I think he's just being more
have a
honest.
have a little tendency towards that? But I don't want to think
I feel
about
like
that.
that's a fact. Like, if it wasn't socially frowned upon, there'd be a lot more guys going for teenage girls.
Yeah. If we were like back in caveman days, it would be that's like the time to have a baby.
Yeah.
Like the best
Well, and
time.
apparently this was a thing. Like, many rock stars had teenage girls that they would either date, or like somebody said Steven Tyler became like guardian to some.
Oh, not Steven Tyler.
I know.
Oh, gross.
But and also an important point, I think, is that Priscilla was not Elvis's only 14-year-old girlfriend. Before
I
her,
didn't know that.
he had like 3 14-year-old girls that were like on tour with him, and he wouldn't have sex with them, but he would like kiss them and like pillow fights, tickle, like creepy fantasy stuff, but never have sex with them.
That's almost more weird than just having sex with.
And even so, I think he was 31 at this point. He went for another 14-year-old.
I don't. Yeah, there's something messed up in his head.
Mm-hmm. He's got a fascination with 14-year-old girls.
14. Do you remember that scene in Priscilla where they have the pillow fight and then Elvis like
knocks her?
Blocks her?
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
You liked that? Well, she was like being too aggressive.
Yeah, and then he like yelled at her for being too manly or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was I thought it was a good scene because then she like goes and hides in the bathroom, and
yeah, she was like, you only like to play if you can win.
Yeah.
Do you know what else I read?
What?
Which is kind of just hilarious. There are multiple women who he dated who said he was so bad in bed. Wow. So he's like a sex symbol. One of the quotes was like, he could kiss like a god, but just could not deliver in bed. And there was another girl who was like, I had to teach him all kinds of stuff.
Oh my gosh.
It's hilarious that like he's on stage as like this sex symbol. Girls are just screaming their heads off, and it's like, if you get in that bed, you're not gonna be happy.
He's a good kisser, and that's where it ends.
Yeah. And
Well, he,
I just thought that was really funny.
well, he never had to think about anyone else ever, so it kind of checks out to me.
Mhm.
Just be completely focused on himself.
Very selfish in the sack.
Well, what a letdown. Also, while you were talking about Lisa Marie, I like put it to, I forgot that she had been like married to Michael Jackson, and we like
Mhm.
made those connections between Michael Jackson and Elvis. And I wonder what was going on in her head when she
Right.
ended up marrying him. I remember seeing an interview with Michael Jackson where he kind of, somebody asked him about like, well, you're the king of pop and you're married to like the princess of rock or something, and he just kind of laughed and he's like, yeah.
Yeah. You got to wonder if she like saw her dad in him and was
Yeah.
like some daddy issues there.
Yeah. But it was short lived. And I also remember seeing an interview with her where she was like, she basically talked like after they had gotten divorced about how like what a creep Michael Jackson was, and
Oh, really?
she's like, listen,
This is Lisa Marie.
yeah, she's like, listen, I just thought we were friends. I didn't think I was gonna fall in love with him. Look at him. And then she's like, and then we became best friends. And then the next thing I knew, I was like completely infatuated with him. And I thought that was really funny of
Oh
her
my gosh.
to just be like
Come on, say it.
it just snuck up on me. Like
It was an accident.
yeah. Um
Also, very sad when you mentioned that like Lisa Marie trying to protect him could have caused to her health issues and her demise.
yeah.
Um, they also try to make it look like that's how his mom died. Is she was worried about him going off into Germany in the was it the army he was in?
Yeah.
And just being away from her in general, whether he's like playing shows or whatever, she's drinking heavily because her baby boy's not there.
Yeah.
So there's some things lining up there.
Yeah. Oh, that's really sad. Well, and they talked about, I think they show it in the Elvis movie, but not in Priscilla, how he had I don't know if it was stillborn, or if he died in the womb, but his twin brother, he had a twin that died.
Yes, he was stillborn.
Okay. And
And he came out first and Elvis was second.
I feel like that would like really rock you as a mother.
Yeah. Well,
And
and people say that it was like not a healthy mother-son relationship, but I can't imagine what she went through with that. And seeing Elvis grow up his whole life and knowing that there was supposed to be two of him.
yeah. Yeah, I feel for her.
Mm-hmm. And
So
every picture that she's in, she just looks absolutely miserable. Have you seen that?
his
My
mom?
God. Yeah. Like doesn't smile. And if she does smile, it's like
No.
a very uncomfortable, like, get me out of here.
No, that's too bad. Well. All right. So which movie do you think is better?
Ooh, as like an entertainment piece,
However you want to answer.
I would rather rewatch Elvis.
Yeah. I think Elvis is better. I've been meaning to rewatch it. I feel like it's like going to a concert. It's like very fun to watch. Yeah.
It is.
I was like tapping my feet in the theater watching it.
So we're obviously not going to cancel Elvis, me and you.
Never. No.
We like Elvis despite his weirdness.
Yeah. And I feel like Priscilla, like it ends really abruptly. Like I didn't like the ending.
Yeah. I didn't think that was the ending, and then things start scrolling and I'm like, what happens next?
Yeah. So it was really cool.
He dies.
I thought it was cool. Mostly the aesthetics and the acting. But as like the narrative arc, I was like, what is going on here? And why did you just end so abruptly?
Yeah. It was, yeah. I wanted it to keep going.
But Elvis is great. Tom Hanks is great in it. And
it took me a second to realize it was Tom Hanks. I was like, that sounds like Woody.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so my sister-in-law is from Memphis, and I spent this past weekend with her, and we talked a lot. We talked a good deal about Elvis, actually. We want to do a trip to Graceland.
Has she been to Graceland?
Yeah. Oh yeah, she's been a lot. She said it's like very common, very common to go.
I have family down in Mississippi, and they've been to Graceland, and I think my brother's been to Graceland, and everybody is like, it's not that great.
I got to see for myself. I'll go for the
Mm-hmm.
barbecue, the Memphis barbecue. She
Mm.
also says that, so Justin Timberlake's also from Memphis, and he's like weirdly the same age as her dad. She's younger than me, and everybody she knows, they always call Justin Timberlake an asshole.
Really?
They said he's not very nice.
Oh my
I
gosh.
was like, that checks out for me.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
But all right, well, so see Elvis first. Definitely watch Elvis first,
So you can enjoy it.
so you can enjoy it and you don't have to hate Elvis. And then watch Priscilla.
Yes. Bring you back to real life.
All right, we're your bitch pack friends.
Bye.